Can you imagine if the female equivalent of Boris Johnson?
Listen, the best advice I can tell you is you're just a woman. Why aren't you home with your kids?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Who's minding your kids then?
Who's throwing the fish fingers at them?
So when you think of female politicians, what do you think of?
Brave.
Pantsies,
Necessary.
shoulder pads.
Inherited the seat from Daddy.
Ooh, Margaret Thatcher.
Trolling.
Oh yeah, that is a bad one.
Yeah, that's what it put me off.
I don't think I could handle that either. Like
don't.
just me doing the tiniest amount of videos for comedy and people are like, oh, you're not good looking. And I'm like, I'm not modelling, I'm making jokes. So I don't think I could handle it.
Yeah, wouldn't be for me, but one person who is well able to handle it and has been having to handle an awful lot of rubbish being thrown at her over the years is our guest today, Hazel Chu. She is former Lord Mayor of Dublin City Council. She is the first ethnically Chinese person ever to be elected Lord Mayor in Europe, and she's recently been victorious in her 2024 local election campaign. She was, I think, the second person nationwide to be deemed elected during the elections, which is incredible. And she is going to come today to answer our question.
And what are we going to ask her?
We are going to ask her, why should women get into politics? So, Hazel, we've brought you here today to help us with our very big question of why would a woman get into politics?
Well, clearly it's for the glamour and fame, Louisa. Like, don't you see it? So, no, I think most people get into politics to do good. In my case, it was just, I had been working a lot in background for the party. I had been their national coordinator. I had been on their exec. I was the one going out asking people to run. And I got to a stage where you kind of go, okay, I'm asking everyone else to put themselves out there, but I won't. So, and I did. I kind of saw, well, the other thing I saw was there weren't that many minorities in politics. And because I just had my daughter, I kind of went, oh God, I really don't want her growing up like me, where it's all pale male and stale in the arena. So I like her to grow up seeing that there are other people that might look like her in politics. So that was where I came from. So
I love that the way you described it at the start just reminded me of like a 90s teen movie where it's like you're going around asking everyone else, and then one day in the mirror you go, hold on, Hazel, I'm asking you.
Could be me.
It could be me. And so what happened then? Did you put yourself forward, or who did you go and talk to, or how did it work?
So I still had to, even though like I ran a lot of the party stuff.
The Green Party, just to...
Yeah, the Green Party. So the party that everyone loves, obviously. And we didn't just get decimated in the polls or the votes. When is this going out then? So, but
this week, hopefully.
This week, yay! No, there's normally with every party, there's a selection convention. Unless you're a party that has no one running for you, then as long as you go there and they say, hey, you're selected. But in most,
it could be just each Healy Ray looking at you, they're going, you're fantastic. Oh, you're great. You're great.
Exactly.
Yeah,
or
like,
you're a cousin, so you're definitely there. So.
No, we said it was going to those cousins this time, next time.
But yeah, in that happens probably in Fine Gael too, I'm sure. But in the Greens, we have a process where if you want to get selected before a local or general election, you will go throw your name in for a selection. So it could be a particular ward that you grew up in. In my case, I grew up in Fairhouse and Selbridge, but because I lived in Ranelagh and I worked around the constituency, I decided to throw my name in for Pembroke. And there was another person who also went for it, lovely guy, but I ended up getting selected. So that's the initial almost election part where you're already running.
When you say you ended up getting selected, you won.
You won.
Yeah, you see, again, if we had a man on,
she won.
She
yeah,
won.
And I was victorious.
See, that's the thing. Women would be there, like very politely, I got selected. I got in.
So
yeah,
something
it was okay.
happened, and
Yeah,
like
something
just here I
happened.
am, you know.
Yeah, and whereas guys would be there going, I crushed that person. So
And tell me this, because did you always want to get into politics? Because for my feeling with somebody like Simon Harris was he was born wearing a shirt and tie, you know, and that as a baby, and he went straight into it. His whole life seemed to funnel through it when he studied in university, when he went on as a councillor. But was that you? Were you a little girl there going around putting shoulder pads under your cardigan?
Little briefcase.
God
Yeah.
knows. And the thing is that kind of summed it up for Simon Harris, because I only found out yesterday at Count Centre he was also helping Fianna Fáil at some stage as well, which I never knew.
Yeah.
See, what is the
knew.
difference?
Yeah. But it was more like that. Like, I think he was always going to go in politics no matter what, or which party, and that's no offense to Simon, but there are some people who like gung-ho, I am going to be a politician. Whereas me, it's like, oh, I need to pay for my rent. So there was no going. For me, when I was in college, it would have been, oh, my parents were very much going, get a good job, get a job. So like I would have been from a migrant family that knew nothing about politics. Like my parents were very, there was 9 of us in a 3-bedroom house. And that's not a sob story or anything, but it's how a lot of migrant families are. They would choose a country that they either end up moving to or meeting in. In this case, my parents met over here. And their main aim was to make ends meet. They met here. My mum was a dishwasher. My dad was a kitchen porter. And they ended up, in the end, when they got together, they were sharing a house with my aunt and their uncle and their family. So there was 9 of us in Fir House growing up. So politics was the last thing on the table. Like, I didn't know anything about politics. My parents didn't know anything about politics or families. I remember the first time my mum mentioned a politician was when Emma Stagg, bless his soul, he's dead now, came in trying to blag a bag of chips from her because she was working in a takeaway in Zelbridge. So, and like, that was her first encounter of a politician. Needless to say, it was not the first good impression she had.
How he tried to blag?
Well, he
Stag
was
blagging a bag.
Yeah, he was a bit drunk after the pub, and I'm guessing the poor man didn't have his wallet or anything. It wasn't anything bad, but she found it really quite amusing because he would have been seen around town, seen around Zelbridge,
and but anyway.
Not a place we go to, in fairness. So, but well, probably a few other people would go to, but we'll get to that some other time. So she, that was her first encounter with a politician, and from then she always says, no, don't go into politics because you have to beg people for stuff.
To beg for potatoes.
You have to beg for potatoes. And like, I kind of thought, okay. So, but then in college there was like, you hear then, because if you go to Irish college, chances are there will be some people who are more politically informed than you are. So in UCD, I got then to know kind of parties or people involved in parties or the various commons. So, and even then it was like, yeah, it's fine.
It wasn't. Now, we probably went to college around the same time. I'm 4 years old and I graduated.
I'm 2 years old. I don't know what you're talking about. We're all 21 here. We barely graduated.
I know.
I
So
graduated
worldly
in
for so young.
2004, the height of the Celtic Tiger.
Oh, good
And it
times.
was very apolitical. I never protested. There was one protest that I remember in UCC, and that's when they changed the ketchup in the canteen from a squeezy button thing where you could get an innumerable amount of ketchup to sachets, and we had a protest. Like Henry Kissinger came to the university. About 5 people turned up to protest because it was a Celtic Tiger. We had
Things were good.
Things are good. I paid £600 for the first year of university and the fees. So I was very apolitical. But you obviously weren't. You had a bit of awareness then.
Oh no, well, by awareness, we would have been, well, you're still later than me. It kind of shows
Not
quite
much.
old. Quite old I am, but
a year or two.
But I was there thinking, we were still quite apolitical then as well. It wasn't like there was massive protests. It wasn't now where people are protesting for Palestine or protesting against housing, and rightly so. But like it was back then, it was like protesting against ketchup, or having a bit of a rant about why did they change the custard in the canteen type thing. So it's just like then it was you wouldn't. For me, it was still okay. What will I get in terms of a job? What will do well? Because from a migrant family, there
totally
is
different.
You have to get a good job, and when you say to your parents, "What's a good job?" they'll go, "A doctor or a lawyer." Like there's a sketch that myself and my brother love, who with a guy saying to his parents, a Chinese guy saying to his parents, he got a B plus. So and his parents going, a B plus is not an A. An A stands for a good job. And we all crack up laughing because that's exactly what our parents are like. And it's like, you have to be a lawyer, you have to be a doctor, you have to be something that's a good job. So I trained to be a barrister, and I never, so I didn't go down the political route. It wasn't a case of I thought, oh, I'm going to go and rule the country someday or get into a party. It was like, I'll go and I will practice law, and I liked particularly the area of immigration and asylum, so I will focus on that. But in the meantime, I needed to pay for my fees, so I worked for various charities. I worked for MS Ireland down the road. I worked for St. Michael's House as well in Dublin. I worked for UNICEF. I did some gigs for them as well, and also, I worked for Electric Picnic. I worked for John Reynolds at the time. So
I've heard a few comedians say you did the booking for stuff. You had a bit of power. Yeah. Your name is known as well in the comedy scene, Hazel.
I'm not quite sure it was power. It was more, here, Hazel, can I have a tent to sleep in instead of like having to sleep in my car? And I'm there going, yes, of course you can. Like the gigs for like the Electric Picnic at the time was hilarious because it was around 2009 or 8 or so, because it started first at 2005, and it was just getting bigger and bigger. It was the heyday of it, like to the point about Celtic Tiger. That was a serious Celtic Tiger. Like you had people rocking up to the artist area kind of going, do you not know who I am? And I'm there going, no. No, who are you? And usually they were like well-known rugby players or models, and no offense to said rugby players or models, but it was like rocking up going, do you know who I am? And then the riders were like 30 pages long at one stage. Wow. Like I still remember having to ask someone to wash the dishes for Bjork, because in the middle of a field, because that was one of her asks. So like
the dishes. Sorry, I'm intrigued by this. So someone had to wash the dishes before she had them, or like it was like performance art?
It was before she had them. She wanted them separate.
Freshly washed.
Yes, freshly washed. So there was one guy the poor guy who just stood there washing.
Sudding like plates in a field.
Because I thought, like, I hadn't worked in production for that long, and it was only for me a side gig to get my fees paid for the ins, that I just thought, you know, whatever, like just throw them along with the rest of the dishes, until John said to me I remember the conversation well, was like, Hazel, whatever they want, you give them. And I was like, seriously? So, and he goes, yes, they're like our headliner act, whatever they want. And they're going, all right, okay, so sure. So we got some poor 17-year-old to start scrubbing dishes in the middle of a field for Bjork. So, and boiling 2 boiled eggs in a kettle for Anthony and the Johnson. It was like a very bizarre ass.
2 boiled eggs in a kettle.
I know.
That's a title for your memoir now, Hazel.
Yeah, that sounds like performance art as well. Give them what they want. The Hazel Chu policy on being a politician.
Well, that was the thing. Well, you see, John's uncle, John's also dead. God, I know a lot of people who died. So, but John's uncle was Albert Reynolds. Okay. So he would have come from the school of thought of probably giving everyone what they
Yeah.
want, which is like
which
keeping,
you're basically saying
keep
people
everyone
yeah,
happy.
keeping the constituents happy.
Nice dig there, Hazel.
I like it.
Well done.
She's so polite even in her
Well
digs.
done. Yeah.
Which some
That
might
was very
say.
cute.
Some might say.
Some might say,
Some might
but no, like in the long and short of things, I worked in New York, I worked in Australia, and then eventually I was back in Ireland and worked for Diageo. I worked for the Chief Scientific Advisor's Office, and I worked for a startup seed fund before I ended up going into politics.
And
So
how did you get the idea of going to the Green Party? What inspired you?
I had no choice.
When Ryan came to the night and put a gun to your head, I knew he had that in him.
It was a compostable
He's too
gun.
perfect. His head is too symmetrical.
He came along saying, you have to join. My husband, yes, my husband was already a Green Party member. He joined back, I don't know, when he was much younger. So, and he was very much climate action is what we had to do. He's a lot better than I am, basically, insofar he cares about stuff. So he joined, and then he was also a child protection social worker. So, and looking at kind of the red tape and everything, he decided one day, I'm going to run for office. And he came home. He actually came home one day. This was before we were married, and he said, hey, guess what? I have a great idea. And I was like, oh, shit. So this is not going to go well. And he just goes, what do you think if I ran for local elections? And I just remember there at the time going, you what? And then he just goes, I want to run for local elections. So I just went, oh, okay, sure, thinking this is another kind of pet project thing that was going on. And then it occurred to me, hang on, you don't have any family in politics. You don't have any backers or mentors, or it's not like you, like the Simon Harrises of the day went and carried the briefcase of Francis Fitzgerald. You don't have any of that. Why the hell are you? And he goes, well, there's a lot of bureaucracy I'm seeing in terms of my work, and I just think maybe I can help move it along. I'd like to. So I said, okay, well, what do we need to do? And he goes, well, it'd be nice if you ran my campaign. And I was like going, wow. Oh, okay. That was the ass, the other shoe drop. It wasn't just say, hey, I had a great idea. It was like, hey.
And here's what's in it for you. Or is it?
But to be fair, we didn't think he'll get anywhere because it was 2014. The Greens had just kind of collapsed after being in government with Fianna Fáil, and things were really bad, and we were still we were only building back up. So in 2014 we barely had it. I don't think we had any councillors, and he said he wanted to run. So we went in there and thinking he might barely scrape by, if even. He ended up topping the poll.
Wow.
So, which was brilliant. And from there, that's how I started working in the party, because I kind of sat down then one day going, right, if he's involved in this and I'm serious about this, let's take a look at what the Greens stand for and what it is that that the party is doing, and if I should help or join or anything. And it was only when I started looking at it that I thought, crap, okay, if I look at the data, the science part, the world is going to fall apart soon. Great, okay, and look, this is what I can do, or I can join Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael or any of the other parties. And then I thought, no, I'll when I say I don't have a choice, it was more not that it would have been just inconvenient if we joined different parties. I think it just.
So this does sound, Hazel, like unfortunately we sort of have to thank a man for you being here.
No, we shouldn't thank a man.
But I like this because you saw what he was doing
and you
supported it. But you weren't going to be the Hillary to his Bill. You said, I know, I'm going to get involved in this too. There might as well be two of us doing it. Yeah. Which is a really good way of doing it, because if you are so heavily involved in a political party, it's very time consuming. You might as well go the whole hog and run for election. If you have, I suppose, the force of personality to resist the criticism and everything that you might have to do.
This is the thing. If people when women say, oh, they don't know whether to run, and when I meet a lot of female candidates and we ask them to run, a lot of times they will go, oh, well, you know, I don't know if I can, or I don't know if I should, or I have family. So when you already have a spouse or family that's part of politics, it's always a little handier because, well, it's hard insofar you're then trying to manage everything in it to
But they
run
get
a camp.
it at least.
But they get it, they get
it.
it. And to like your point about not being Hillary to someone, like someone's built, there's so many of that though still. There's so many in Irish politics or US politics. There's always kind of a woman from behind a man, and then
kingmaker.
yeah.
The kingmaker.
But then, like, look at poor Hillary when she went out herself. Then it was like, yeah, no.
You one of the things I really admire about you is the fact that, you know, you are doing this, but like both parents in the family have these like pretty demanding jobs. I do not have as demanding a job as you have, and can barely keep the show on the road with children and stuff. So I'm just in awe, and I don't mean this in a condescending like, how does a woman do it? Because no one asks the man that, but I think that's genuinely a question a lot of women would have. It's like, how do you make it all work? And I remember particularly when you were Lord Mayor, and this was during Zoom times, you did some great breastfeeding Zooms. I am described as, I believe you may have been described as this. I've had relatives call me mad for the breastfeeding, which I was like, I mean, I'm not suckling other women's breasts, and I don't judge. You do what you want, but like mad for it. I'm like, okay. And one of the things that
mad for the boobs, Louisa.
Mad for the boobs. Well, I've had two boys who I if they end up being straight, I do worry that they will be mad for the boobs forever because could not get them off.
I have a 6-year-old girl who my mum says, you're going to turn her into a lesbian. I was like, because she never breastfed, you see. So she has this kind of theory.
With different attitudes to it.
And it's like, no, she'll just like, I don't think she'll turn into a lesbian, Mum, but if she does, it's fine. It's also okay. So,
and it's also like, that's what the older generation, it's like turned into a lesbian.
Turned, yeah.
Like she just like Wolverine.
She saw too much breast.
And then suddenly she's in Doc Martens. Yeah.
But it was amazing to see, first of all, like a woman there as Lord Mayor, but a woman also with a young child, and kind of, I don't know, was that because of COVID that things were more on Zoom, so like more people could see you at home in the mansion house or whatever, but I always remember that, what you did there, and I have a child, I think, kind of similar age, so it was really refreshing to see that representation of women doing it with kids, and that it is kind of chaotic sometimes, and they're climbing in, and like, because that's the reality. But still, how are you keeping the show on the road, Hazel? What are we all doing wrong here?
We're not doing anything wrong. That's the thing. Like the chaos and the shit that gets shown, that's real. And it's like, I look at kind of, never mind, everyone from like politicians to artists and people who work in any jobs. Like when you're a mother, you're trying to do 50 million things. So, and like my 6-year-old literally just had to scream at me before I left the house. So like,
classic,
that's exactly what you need. Or started like being really sarky, going no. So, but like that's part of it. I remember when I was little, I would sit in the kitchen of my mum and dad's takeaway and watching them. So like,
they worked very hard as well.
Yeah, you just do what you have to do. But like, I don't think, this is the thing, we always seem to have a sanitized version of what people bringing up their kids should be like. That there's like, you send them to crash or to school, or and then you pick up, and then you do lunch, or you do dinner and bedtime, etc.
And no one's fighting, and no one's throwing food at each other, or saying you're the worst.
It's never like that.
Because I've heard.
I'm so sorry.
Worst fish finger ever.
But like,
my imaginary children, by the way, are perfect.
Amazing.
Yes,
they're gorgeous.
They're
well behaved.
Absolute credit.
They're not taking a dump in the middle of the hallway, so it's
they
fine.
would never do that. No, unless it was this kind of performance art that I made them do.
Les Bjork asked them to.
I was a bit of a tangent, but I once called a friend, and he said, I can't talk at the moment. I was like, I need some help on something. And he goes, my 2-year-old just handed me a lump of her poo. So no, Hazel, I cannot help
Not
you.
now.
And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. So
Bye.
there. So, bye.
So basically, it's just you just get through it, and that's that.
You get through it and you don't apologize for it. Like I know, like in Imagine I got a good bit of flack, but there was sometimes I got flack for, oh, you're showing too much of this. Like the one person said to me, older person said to me, this is not how the Lord Mayor behaves. That's not the type of shoes the Lord Mayor wears, because I was wearing my runners at the time. And
I just imagine you coming out in some like 17th century brogues.
it was my red
traditional
high
Lord
tops.
Mayor shoes on.
But it was my red high tops, and I just went, what? And then they just went, yeah, and look what you did to the rooms there. There were toys all over kind of the place because Alex's toys were all over the place. And I just went, well, I'm working and I have a kid here and I don't have childcare because of COVID. So what the hell do you want? Like, what the fuck do you want?
Of course, yeah.
But that was what happened. And I just thought it was nice talking to other parents. And that's why the breastfeeding groups were good and talking to breastfeeding mothers. It was nice to hear their stories as well. Like one of the heartbreaking stories were during COVID was the women who didn't have company, couldn't have anyone in the hospital.
And no support.
Yeah, no support. And when I had asked for people's testimonials so I can bring them to the board in Hollar Street and Rotunda, like some of the most heartbreaking stories come true. So it's just I think you start understanding from different people's perspective what it's like. And that's the thing with the Lord Mayor role. Like a lot of people see mayoralties and go, okay, they're there to go take pictures. They're there to go, I don't know, open, like cut a ribbon or open this one. I kind of thought with my one, perhaps we can have a slightly different, perhaps we can bring people along a bit more. And with what was happening in COVID at the time, I think one of the things people wanted to do was just talk about kind of what was happening to them because they didn't have the daily interaction that they would normally have. So from women who were pregnant to older people, we were doing a Meals on Wheels service as well with the community forum, and like just some of the stories were heartbreaking. So and like going back to being a politician, I think that's what politicians need to be. Like we laugh about the Healy Rays of the world, but in a way that's what Healy Rays do as well.
They're almost like middlemen, brokers for
services.
Services.
Yeah.
And do you have to have a clinic or anything like that?
I wanted to do one, but then a friend told me I can't, in a nice way, because at the time I was only recently I wanted to do a regular one because we were campaigning, but I had once or twice encountered people waiting for me who were not very nice people.
It was the security risk for you, basically.
Yeah, one or two of them. One guy had been arrested for incitement for hatred before, and it was just
Very scary.
you don't need it. And like we used to have one with Patrick, and we ended up having to lock the doors sometimes, and it was like, okay, maybe we just won't do it. So, and it's funny, you wouldn't have thought that was how politics was going when you kind of hear about not even back in the day, but back years ago when Joe Cox Brown happened, you kind of go, that will never happen in Ireland. That will not be what we will become.
It might. If it did happen, I wouldn't be completely shocked, and that's the unfortunate case. Yeah. And how do you cope mentally with trolling, criticism, anything like that? You know, if somebody gives me a dirty look, I'm thinking about it for a week. You know, I don't even know the person. I'm like, that woman cut across me in Centra. You know,
it's because I've got a bad soul. Isn't it? She knew.
Was there something showing? So, I mean, I do, as a comedian, I do get comments, and one's definitely, even the most staunch kind of women aren't funny type guys would admit that women in comedy get more nasty comments on videos and on social media. So what do you do mentally to detach, or can you?
Female comedians, female artists, female gamers. I know a lot of women gamers. Actually, my brother is in gaming community, works in it, and he just says, it's so shit when he sees some of the comments some of
Yeah.
his colleagues get compared to him. So, and I always think there's a bit of a scale because, like, Joe, my brother, would be from Chinese heritage as well, so he looks Asian. But he was always going, listen, I get a bit of flack, but the thing is, if you're a woman, or if you're a woman from a minority background, you get even worse, and if you're a woman, you get worse. And then if you're a guy from a minority background, you that's the next level of the scale. And then he said, eventually, if you're like male and white and older, you're fine. So yeah, and it's funny because I was myself and Patrick did a bit of a comparison, because there's a friend of mine who works a lot on data, and he kind of produced this set of research on trolling, and Ian was saying, okay, I'm doing this piece of research for one of the organizations that asked me to, and you wouldn't be surprised that you and the O'Farker gets the most shit online. So
No way.
yeah, and then so myself and Patrick, my other half, decided, I wonder, is Ian right? So we sent out one day the exact same tweet, pretty much exact same tweet.
I love this, Hazel.
Phrased in a slightly different way. And the amount of shit that came back, like literally my comments were in the hundreds and hundreds of like really shitty comments, ranging from I should be deported to I'm like a fat chink to like to just all sorts.
Horrible.
And
yeah.
then like Patrick's comments were, I don't know, 4 of them. So
Yeah.
yes,
I'm
that
probably
was
like,
it.
I disagree.
Yeah, I don't think you're right, dude, kind of way. So it was like, it was just
Yeah,
quite,
that's-
and it's quite interesting to see the difference. And even with, it's funny, myself and Panty Bliss talk a good bit online, and they were saying that it's the same thing, that whenever they comment, it's like, oh, look, floods of comments. But when they see their friends, it's like,
Doing the
oh,
same
yeah,
thing,
no,
nothing.
nothing. Not even nothing, but the tone is always
Yeah.
different.
It's not as heightened.
Yeah,
It's
it's not as
insulting.
heightened.
Men get comments about the content, but women get comments about everything else. I had a video up, criticism about my makeup,
Yeah.
how I'm not attractive. Like, I mean, I know I'm not a model, but what I didn't ask for that comment. Criticism about what I wear, the accent, everything, and very little is focused on what's actually said. And men, no, they focus more on what's said. And to be honest, a lot of the comments were from other women, which I was quite surprised by. Yeah.
Well, we were saying this today. Like someone, one of the women I was talking to was saying today that we were commenting on how electing women is a good thing. Electing, especially left-leaning women, is a good thing. And her point was, oh, it doesn't matter. If you look at Thatcher, she was like a woman, didn't do the country any good. And I was like going, yeah, but like there's a difference between Thatcher.
So let's not vote for any of them.
Yeah, let's let Thatcher and the majority of women. And the thing is, it's just, you can't keep on saying Thatcher was bad and therefore all the other women.
So I won't be trying that again.
Absolutely ridiculous.
It's amazing how a lot of the hate does come from women as well as men. Like a lot of it comes from internet trolls when you're online, but some of them, the more direct, if it's offline hate, would come from women. I've gotten this kind of, and it's not all women.
Oh God!
Just like it's
Hashtag not all
yeah,
men.
not
just
all
like
women.
it's not all men. It's but with women, it's this kind of like underlying passive aggressiveness that is, oh, how dare you kind of say that or do that or be that kind of way. So, yeah.
I read a study there that they did where they showed photographs of women to other women, and they showed a photograph of a woman and said this woman is a homemaker, and then people rated how much they thought they'd get on with this woman. Then they showed the same woman and said this woman is CEO of a startup, and people considerably less likely to think she was a nice person and had all these negative ideas straight away just because this woman was in a position of power. So it's funny how there's this built-in thing of, oh, they shouldn't be doing that, getting away from the kids.
I had quite a few doors that said to me, like, lovely people, actually, the majority of people I canvassed, but there were quite a few kind of quite misogynistic, patronising comments from guys, but then there were quite a few women who kind of said, oh, why are you out? And I'm there going, oh, it's like election season, kind of like,
This is what we do.
In case you haven't noticed, this is my face over there. And but like there was a couple of them, one of them in particular just said, but I thought you had a child. And I was like, I do. And then they just go, and
This is baffling.
well, and then she just went on to that natural step of, and who's with the child right now? And I really want to say, well, I left her at home on her own and she's like cooking herself dinner. Yeah, she's fine kind of way. But like, I just went, her father? And then she just kind of got a bit taken aback going, oh, you're, and it was like, how are we back in the 1950s again? Like, how are we doing that? But then that's like, it sometimes I think it's just some way as a society we're kind of tuned almost that women, no matter how much we want to progress further or say that, oh, we need to advance kind of women, there is a part that kind of go, no, this is where they belong. And it's odd. It's kind of, not everyone thinks that, but there is a huge part of that. Like I remember one of the articles, and I actually ended up framing it. So, and it's in my toilet.
This will be good.
It's in it's in my toilet. So, because as my husband said, it's where it belongs. It was specifically after I had a bit of a run-in with the party, and I said I threw my name in for an election that I knew I'd lose in, mainly because at the time I had had racist protests at my door. I had got death threats. I had got all sorts of threats saying I don't belong in office because I was Chinese, and I was quite fed up. And I had said, listen, we need to normalize things. We need to show that anyone of colour needs to be able to run for office. So I threw my name in for a run that I didn't think I'd get anywhere. And it all blew up. So, and I didn't expect it to blow up. I didn't know that the time, like I hadn't been informed of certain things, and it all blew up in the media. And next thing you know, that weekend I had all sorts of articles being written about me about how dare she do this, and how dare she kind of, one woman said, how dare I set the movement of women and climate action back by a decade. And I was like, oh, what the fuck?
Did you know you had that much
well,
power?
I know. And then,
Well
like,
done, you.
Yeah, one commentator was there going, like, oh, the likes of Hazel Chu and Catherine Martin are just like setting people back. I'm there going, what is going on here? And these were all female commentators. And
Crazy.
I was really...
It's not like you did that and then suddenly we got all the free plastic bags again. You know?
I know.
Suddenly turf fires in every house.
It was just really bizarre. And there was one very good voice of reason. Her name is Justine McCarthy. I have to name her because she's lovely. And she wrote a piece after reading all the other pieces and kind of just said, oh, dear Lord, this is just so bullshit. Like, there is a serious problem we have here of women against women and people against diversity and minorities, yet we don't seem to want to face it. So, and she actually called it out full on, and it was lovely. It was lovely to see, okay, these things happen and people spot that it happens. But I also noticed that it does happen to everyone, especially when you're a female in a public arena of some sort. It's odd. It's just
that women have to be perfect all the time. Like, you know, I'm not, again, talking about Trump or Boris Johnson. Somebody like Boris Johnson, like, he's an absolute mess. His shirt is sticking out. He's bumbling around. He did so many dodgy things. You know, his Wikipedia page says 6/7 children. They don't even know. Right? Can you imagine?
6.5.
Yeah. But can you imagine if the female equivalent of Boris Johnson, you know, your hair is a mess, you go up on the podium, you're doing your bra straps before you go on to speak, and
You're pulling your notes out of your bra.
Yeah, exactly. Then you kind of wink at somebody, and the nice young man in the audience, get him to intern for me. He's quite a dish. You know, like, there's no way a woman who had any bit of those faults.
But you not think even a man who wasn't white wouldn't get away
No,
with
that's
it
true. A
either?
man who wasn't white.
That is
Then
true.
you're
had to
getting
be
the double
perfect.
whammy.
Yeah, I think if you are, I always look at Diane Abbott, and I don't agree with everything Diane Abbott says and does, but I always think, oh God, she's getting the double whammy.
So much
Yeah,
slack.
so much of it, mainly because, well, she's black and she's a woman. So, and I don't think society is quite ready for progression in any
do you
manner.
think
You have all these very then safe women coming into politics with the pantsuit, the shoulder pads, and they're almost like Lego, and they don't say anything controversial or really push for anything, and then they're middle ground women that are
safe, yeah.
pushed forward in the middle ground parties that have the Lego hair, and it's great, Hazel, that you're just out there, for the Greens, breastfeeding around the world.
Taking my boobs out. Yeah.
Yeah. I heard she was breastfeeding anyone who wanted
Yeah.
So it is.
Someone did say to me when I put out a picture of Alex feeding, someone off.
Now, Alex is her son, just to know.
No,
not a
daughter,
Russian man.
daughter.
Sorry.
Child. But someone then said, "My God, did you take those out in the meeting?" And I was like,
Take those out.
"What? My boobs? Take those out? They're weapons. They're gonna they're gonna attack
Please
you
leave
now."
your boobs at the door. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thanks. Don't show us anything. So.
Well,
But
do you know
think
the way
if-
they said Angela Rayner was crossing and uncrossing her legs to distract Boris Johnson? In
Clipping
Prime
and
Minister's
unclipping the
question?
nursing bra.
Yeah.
There's nothing more attractive, let
Yeah.
me tell you, than a breastfeeding bra.
Doesn't well, it won't work in Varadkar, but we'll try. For
Those
Simon
don't work on
Harris.
anyone, I can
Yeah.
promise you. Do you think sometimes though, Hazel, I wonder, like, is because someone like you've put yourself into the public sphere, that then it's almost, and I'm not saying this is acceptable, but for some people that is an acceptable way of expressing their racism publicly. For some people, under the guise of like, well, I don't like the Greens, or it's not because of it's not because of her being from a minority group. It's because of the policy I don't like. That then you're kind of an easy vehicle for them to like vent stuff out. Although I'd say probably in this election, there's more people who are not even trying to hide it. It's
so many
quite-
aren't trying to hide it at this stage.
Quite overt.
Yeah, so many aren't trying to hide it. And it's funny, my uncle, I love him to bits, but he is very much your typical older man who just thinks they can blurb out random stuff. And he always goes, Hazel, like, I'm sure if you joined a better party, they'll stop like calling you racist names. And I was like, really?
Join a better
And
party.
he just goes, yeah, like if you joined a party that wasn't about cycling and cyclists, then like I'm sure they'll stop calling you a chink then. I was like going, let us try to make this equation work in your head. And he was like, listen, like, if you went and joined, and he started then listing off the parties, and
Of who he thought would be like
he
the-
listed all the parties, and I kind of sarcastically went, "What about the Nationalist Party? Would you like me to join that?" And then he just goes, "I haven't heard of them recently." So I just
Now
kind
that
of
would be quite the coup, Hazel.
God, but like there is loads of parties that loads of politicians or loads of people out there that now think, listen, everything is fair game. Like you can make a comment, be it nasty and racist, or be it misogynistic, and kind of go, you know what? I wasn't attacking her or him for that. I was merely saying that their party is shit and kind of try to cover up. And then there are others who just don't care anymore and come out with things like, listen, we need to deport everyone back to wherever country. So
And it's at a
Back to Selbridge, you'd be going.
Selbridge, yeah.
for house, for house.
Listen, some of us made it out of North Kildare, okay? Just like, grew up in Leaksley.
Lisa is lovely.
I know it is
Yeah,
lovely.
so-
And there's much more trains now than there were, which is great for the old public transport. I haven't cycled out there for a while, so I don't know.
How do you cycle out there? Like, as in,
I
like,
don't know. You'd
I'm
have to
trying
go down the
think-
Strawberry Beds or
Yeah.
something through the Phoenix Park. Yeah, it'd be. I'm a reluctant cyclist.
Okay,
Do
you have
it because I have to.
you have to be really fit though, is what I'm
I have an
thinking.
electric bike.
Oh, okay.
Changed my life. Anyway,
Sorry.
So imagine in the future we are gonna assume you become Taoiseach one day,
Sorry.
and you had a magic wand. I'd like you to believe in this vision. Sorry, we're manifesting here. You're destroying our
If
manifestation
I was
here.
a man, I would be there going, yes, I am.
Exactly,
I am.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, it's on the plan. It's on the 10-year vision. Imagine you were a Taoiseach and you could change one thing about Ireland overnight, you had a magic political wand, what would it be?
Oh my God, the one thing. No.
And then if that's successful, you can do other things. So we won't make you hinge everything. But for the purposes of this question, one thing.
Oh, free working, actually working, public healthcare. Like free working public healthcare, not just free public healthcare like the UK has, because the NHS is like, it's great, but it doesn't necessarily
It's
work.
not great.
But
no.
like, yeah, it's not great. Whereas like actual free public healthcare, that is from once you're born to much, much older, as in if you're a nursing home or someone that needs a carer, that like, it's all provided. It's
available.
all provided. So that will be where I will be
That
coming
is very interesting. I'd say a lot of people are expecting you to say a massive bike lane to Leixlip. But no.
I'm disappointed if I'm honest.
from. Or a box for all the races. So. But no, I don't know. I work a lot on housing, and the lack of housing terrifies me. But what I also get terrified is that, like, from COVID to everything else, and when we talked about the maternity issues, and then even older people, it's the health system and the collapse of it.
It's so important. Yeah, your health is your wealth. It's really obvious. Tell me this. If you were to give a young woman advice about getting into politics in general, it doesn't matter if she's in Green Party or one of the actually good ones.
One of your uncle's faves.
One of my uncle's faves, yeah.
What,
ain't too.
what advice would you give, having been in it now, having had a bit of experience?
Don't fucking do it. I mean, it's amazing. No, I there are times where I'm there going, what the fuck am I doing? But there are so many times I go, listen, the best advice I can tell you is just don't let people tell you can't. So like there are going to be so many people that tell you can't do it, like it be it internally in a party or externally with a voter that will tell you, oh no, listen, I don't think I can vote for you. But just don't take the shit from it. So and say, okay, and you mightn't get elected. Like I know a lot of female candidates I worked with this time round didn't get elected, and I'm gutted for them. So, but at the same time, I look at the vote share that they got, and it's much better than before. So I'm hoping there's building that. And then I look at one of the people that got elected in Galway. Her name's Helen Ugbu. So,
That's right.
Yeah, she ended
Former
up
asylum seeker.
yeah,
right,
former asylum seeker that ended up getting the seat that belonged to a racist. So it's like, hey, the world
There's
comes full circle. But for a younger woman, I would just say, don't take no for an answer. Like like a lot of people will tell you, oh, that's too bossy, women are too emotional, women can't do this, or like you're just not allowed for a job, or oh, what if you want maternity leave, all that crap. Just say, no, listen, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it the way I want to do it. Like, be it within your party structures, I'm still going to do it the way I think is best for me, rather than have a good group of strategists or advisors or party hacks tell you how you should do it. So like, just don't take no and do it the way you want. So.
Don't take no and do it the way you want. I like it.
You've heard it here first. We've given you so many good titles for your memoir, Hazel, today. So I hope that's our gift to you.
What was the first one again?
Washing dishes in a field or something.
Yeah, boobs are not weapons.
Oh, boobs are not weapons.
Boobs
So many.
are not weapons.
We've got a 3-part series here, I think, for you. Well, thank you so
Thank
much,
you so much.
Hazel,
Thank you.
during
Thank
such
you.
a busy week.
Thank you. Sorry,
We're
I'm
both
so fried. Sorry.
Astounded and honoured that you'd spend time with us. So thank you so much.
I love spending time with Aideen. She's great fun. So.
Yay, and Louisa too, now that you
And
know.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
And I'm here. It's okay.
You're just a woman. Why aren't you home with your kids?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so
Who's minding your kids now?
Who's throwing the fish fingers at them?
Literally throwing. So, anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anytime. So.
That's been it.
That's it. So we've had our chat with Hazel, who is freshly elected, is it freshly hatched as a as a councillor again on Dublin City Council. Aideen, what do you think now? Why would women go into politics?
Well, I don't know why, but we need them to go into politics. Women are 51% of the population because more women are born and men are just like, oh, I'm not going to go to the doctor. So they're always dying early because they can't be bothered to get prostate checks. So we do need them. But my big takeaway from that is what Hazel has achieved. You know, it's not like she came from an immigrant family sharing 9 people, 2 rooms, and she managed to become mayor of Dublin. That's amazing.
It is amazing.
It's amazing. And despite all the abuse, she hasn't laid down. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So her sheer grit and determination is a lesson to all of us. Just get on with it.
Yeah, absolutely, get on with it. And I think you can see also in the results of the election as well, is that it paid off. You know, she was being targeted so much, both online, and I think, you know, a huge portion of her posters were torn down, more so than the people she was against. And yet, she was still one of the first people in the country to be elected. So why would women get into politics? I mean, for the right reasons, hopefully, with a lot of grit, and they need to be made of stern stuff, but I am very glad that women like her do.
Tá mefa is a híseach. I'm going to ask you, leaving cert, cast your mind back to Tá mefa the híseach cad ho.
Oh, sin dachar. Ní féidir man chóras slánta rá mar gur se é sin. Oh, sin
Dachas.
Yeah, well, an cédal she's bhil an ghail cláiste all in Mallorca do gar de sé hocht. Das na páistí an sin nach bhfuil an chance acu a dachas all in nie dachas na bunscoile. Ach beidir gonnean rud é an hart ar tiíocht is dó. Tá mar rud gar se toirlú láithre canis.
Yeah, go céin rud.
Okay, well, there's fun again with my policy. So, point a hain. Token tihi, garhan, actually garhan na pinóis atá ann the daoine ágan tithe like vacant buildings agus mar sin dem, or just dúir dálah ní hórlaí in éon cé go bhfuil na dleatha an déanhan rud éigen faoi sin, lórthach, token níos mó tithe, agus ní lighin do cólachtaí slad mór tihí a cheannacht agus iad tógáilte. Dearan, you know, coffer iad a cheannacht.
Na vulture fund na.
No few not vulture funds, just fundana ar bit. Agus beidir gonnearhan leis na cuirlaí áitiúla go raibh orthú níos mó tihí a thógáil faoine chóir féin.
Mahu, tá.
An raibh sin go mar policy. Okay,
tá míanach anat a bheith at a folatóir.
No, not Danish.
An míanach agus an slabhar or.
Yeah, well.
Erin, it's Shin and Fochel Sker. Thank you so much for listening to us.
We'll be back. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us on our Instagram, on our TikTok. Not many people looking at us there, so feel free to drop over.
I mean,
no, not yet.
Long go
Slán.